Listen to me closely because the story I'm about to tell you isn't going to be on the front page of ESPN. It isn't going to be discussed on the morning talk shows because the producers are too terrified of the backlash. They are scared to touch the third rail of sports culture. But we aren't scared. We are going to walk right up to that rail and grab it with both hands. You think you know what's happening in the sneaker world? You think you know who runs the WNBA? You think you understand the economics of the swoosh? You have no idea. We are looking at a cover-up. We are looking at a changing of the guard that was so violent, so sudden, and so absolute that it left a two-time MVP in the dust and crowned a rookie as the new face of global basketball before she ever played a professional minute. I need you to visualize a room in Beaverton, Oregon, the Nike headquarters, the inner sanctum where the billions are made. In that room, there are two tables. On table one, there is a shoebox that looks like it's made of gold bullion. It's glowing. It represents the future. It represents a nine-figure investment. It represents a global takeover. That box belongs to a girl from Iowa named Caitlin Clark. On the second table, in the shadows, sitting next to a half-drunk bottle of water, is a shoebox that looks tired. The cardboard is flimsy. The design looks like it was pulled from a template folder from 2014. That box belongs to Wilson. And the difference between these two tables isn't just marketing budget. It isn't just design. It is the story of the greatest self-sabotage in the history of sports marketing. We are going to dissect how a dynasty crumbled because of ego. We are going to break down how silence destroyed noise. We are going to look at the receipts, the timestamps, the deleted tweets, and the sales figures that Nike is trying to hide from the public eye. So lock the doors, turn off your notifications, do not scroll away, because by the time I am done with you, you will never look at a pair of sneakers or a post-game press conference the same way again. Let's go back to the beginning. We have to set the scene properly to understand the magnitude of this collapse. Aja Wilson, let's give the woman her flowers because the fall is only tragic if you understand how high she was standing. 6'4". A powerhouse. A statuesque dominance that we haven't seen since the early days of Lisa Leslie. She went to South Carolina. She played for Dawn Staley. She won the title. She went first overall to Vegas. She built the Aces into a super team, 2 championships, 2 MVPs, a Defensive Player of the Year trophy, an Olympic gold medal around her neck. Her resume isn't just good. It is titanium. It is bulletproof. By every traditional metric of sports hierarchy, Aja Wilson should be the face of the league. She should be the one on the billboards in Times Square. She should be the one every little girl wants to be. But here is the cold, hard truth that sports media refuses to say out loud. Being great at basketball and being a cultural icon are two completely different sports. You can dominate the paint for a decade, you can stack trophies to the ceiling, but if you don't move the needle, if you don't capture the imagination, if you don't make grandmothers in Des Moines and teenagers in Tokyo stop scrolling and pay attention, you are just a great athlete. You are not a movement. Enter the movement. Caitlin Clark, the sniper, the girl who pulls up from the logo like it's a layup. She didn't just break records, she broke the geometry of the game. She turned NCAA women's basketball into must-see TV, outpacing the NBA Finals in viewership. She had sold-out arenas for away games. She had people camping out for tickets. She had the IT factor that you cannot manufacture in a lab. You cannot teach that charisma. You cannot buy that kind of gravitational pull. When she declared for the draft, the Indiana Fever didn't just get a player, they got an economy. Now imagine you are Aja Wilson. You are sitting on your throne in Las Vegas. You have done everything right. You have paid your dues. You have carried the league on your back for years when the TV ratings were low and the salaries were lower. And suddenly, this girl from Iowa comes in, this rookie who hasn't blocked a single shot in the pros yet, and the entire world loses its mind. The cameras turn away from you. The microphones turn away from you. The execs at Nike stop returning your calls as quickly because they are too busy looking at the engagement numbers coming out of the Midwest. It starts as a seed of doubt, a little whisper of insecurity. Then it grows into resentment. And then finally, it explodes into a full-blown toxicity that destroys your brand from the inside out. The catalyst wasn't a game. It wasn't a press conference. It was a screenshot, a simple image that circulated on Twitter and ignited a wildfire. Every year, there is a census done by sneakerheads, the nerds who count every shoe worn on every NBA court. They track the data, they look for trends, and in one single week, the data came back and it was shocking. 42. That is the magic number. 42 NBA players, men, the elite, the guys making $40 million a year, chose to wear the Caitlin Clark Kobe PE Player Edition on the court. Do you understand the significance of that? NBA players are creatures of ego. They are creatures of habit. They do not wear WNBA product unless it is fire, unless it is undeniable, unless it is a status symbol. They were rocking the Clark colorways, Jason Tatum, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, and then the king himself, LeBron James, posting a story with the fire emojis, pointing at the shoes, co-signing the rookie. Now look at the other side of the ledger. In that same week, how many NBA players were caught wearing Aja Wilson's shoe? 1. Bam Adebayo. And half the internet argued he grabbed them by mistake because they looked like generic team shoes. 42-1. That is not a rivalry. That is a massacre. That is the market speaking so loudly that it shatters the windows. And Aja Wilson saw it. She was scrolling just like you and me. She saw the timeline praising Clark. She saw the hype beast accounts drooling over the colorways. She saw the narrative shifting, cementing Clark as the chosen one. And instead of putting her head down, instead of getting in the gym, instead of calling her design team and demanding better, she made the classic mistake. She picked up her phone, she opened the app, and she chose violence. Rule number 1 of being a public figure: never tweet when you are in your feelings. Never go live when the jealousy is boiling in your veins. But she couldn't help herself. The tweets started dropping late at night. Cryptic at first. Delayed, not denied. Okay, we can work with that. Inspirational. But then the mask slipped. No real ones recognize real ones. Getting spicier. And then the direct shot, the one that you can't walk back. When you've actually won things, you don't need validation from people who can't even pronounce your name right. Boom! The internet exploded. That wasn't a cryptic message. That was a declaration of war. That was a 2-time MVP punching down at a rookie. It looked petty. It looked small, but she wasn't done. She went on Instagram Live, midnight, the witching hour, sitting in the dark, incense burning, looking into the camera with eyes that told the whole story. She ranted for 37 minutes and she played the card. She went there. She blamed the system. She blamed race. She blamed the media machine. She said, "I've been the best for years, but I don't look a certain way, and that changes things." Now listen, we are adults here. We know that bias exists. We know the history of marketing in America. Nobody is denying that there are hurdles. But when you use that argument to explain why 42 NBA players prefer a different shoe, you lose the room. You lose the plot. You are blaming systemic issues for a product failure. You are blaming society for the fact that your shoe looks like it belongs in a clearance bin at Ross, while the other shoe looks like it belongs in a glass case. You turned a business problem into a victimhood narrative, and the fans, black, white, and everything in between, saw right through it. They saw the bitterness. They saw the entitlement. And while Aja Wilson was imploding, while her PR team was likely ripping their hair out and screaming at their phones, what was Caitlin Clark doing? Silence. Complete, absolute, terrifying silence. No tweets, no clapbacks, no subtweeting lyrics from Drake songs, no victim statements, just videos of her in the gym, just videos of her shooting logo threes, just photos of her signing autographs for kids who waited 5 hours in the rain. The contrast was blinding. On one side, you have the established veteran crying about fairness. On the other side, you have the rookie working. On one side, you have noise. On the other side, you have focus. And in the court of public opinion, focus wins every single time. Nike saw this. The executives in Beaverton are not emotional. They are calculating. They saw Wilson damaging the brand equity. They saw her alienating customers. And they saw Clark building a mystique that money cannot buy. Then came the knockout blow, the moment that took this from a skirmish to a fatality. The New Heights podcast, the Kelsey brothers, Travis and Jason, the biggest platform in sports media right now, they book Caitlin Clark. Now everyone expected a fluff piece, soft questions. How does it feel to be a pro? Standard media training answers, but Clark didn't come to play. She came to settle the score without ever mentioning her opponent's name. She walks in, sits down, and she puts a prototype on the table. Not a finished shoe, a prototype, cut up, marked with Sharpie, rough edges. She starts talking about the engineering. She explains that 18 months ago, long before the draft, long before the hype peaked, she was in the lab with Nike. She wasn't just signing off on a design, she was building it. She talked about the foam density. She talked about the heel lock because she has narrow ankles. She talked about the traction pattern being derived from her heat maps on the court. Then Jason Kelsey, a man who knows performance, pulls out a box cutter and slices the shoe in half right there on the video. And the world saw the guts of the shoe. They saw the carbon fiber plate. They saw the tech. They saw the care. Clark looked into the camera and said something that should be etched on the wall of every athlete's home. She said, "I told Nike I didn't want a signature shoe just to have one. I wanted to build something from scratch. If my name is on it, it has to be perfect. I want a kid to save up their money, open that box, and feel like I personally handed it to them. I'm not doing this for the clout. I'm doing this for the product." Do you feel the difference? Do you hear the difference? Aja Wilson was talking about what she was owed. Caitlin Clark was talking about what she created. Wilson was focused on the status. Clark was focused on the service to the fan. The podcast broke the internet. The hashtag WCC1 began trending worldwide, beating out political news, beating out movie trailers. The pre-orders went live and the site crashed. Not a little glitch, a full server meltdown. 4 minutes, that's all it took. 4 minutes for the entire initial run to vanish. Resale sites like StockX immediately lit up. Prices skyrocketed, $600, $700. People were paying triple retail for a shoe that hadn't even shipped yet. Now let's pan the camera over to the Aja Wilson release, or should I say the Aja Wilson disposal, because that's what it was. While Clark was selling out globally, Wilson's shoes were quietly being moved. No fanfare, no big commercial spots. You walked into Foot Locker and you didn't see a display. You saw them on the bottom shelf. And then the ultimate disrespect, the orange sticker, the clearance tag, 30% off, then 40% off. People were taking photos of the dusty boxes sitting in outlet malls and posting them side by side with the empty shelves where Clark's shoes used to be. The memes were brutal. Bam Adebayo photoshopped holding a sign that said, "Will work for clout." The internet took the sales numbers and used them as a bludgeon. It wasn't just that Wilson's shoe wasn't selling, it was that the market was actively rejecting the energy she put out. Nike had to make a choice. They have shareholders, they have quarterly earnings calls, and in the Q3 report, the language was clear if you know how to read corporate speak. They highlighted the unprecedented demand for the Caitlin Clark product line as a primary driver of future revenue. They mentioned her by name. They called her a generational catalyst. Do you know whose name wasn't mentioned in the forward-looking statements? Aja Wilson. The silence from the boardroom was louder than any press release. They were pivoting. They were putting the marketing budget, the Super Bowl commercials, the Travis Scott collaborations, the global billboards behind the rookie. They were betting the farm on Iowa, and they were letting the two-time MVP fade into the legacy category. This brings us to the deeper lesson here. This isn't just about sneakers. It's about the psychology of success. Aja Wilson had everything, but she fell into the trap of comparison. Comparison is the thief of joy, but in business, comparison is the architect of failure. She looked at someone else's plate and got mad that it looked fuller, instead of eating the food that was on her own table. She thought that her accolades entitled her to love, but love from the public isn't owed. It's earned day by day, interaction by interaction. When you attack the rising tide, you don't stop the tide. You just drown. Clark understood something fundamental. You don't fight the old guard, you just build a new castle. She didn't need to engage with Wilson because she was too busy engaging with the engineers. She was too busy engaging with the kids. She was too busy engaging with the game itself. There is a rumor floating around, and my sources are telling me this is airtight, that Nike is rewriting their standard endorsement contracts because of this specific disaster. They are adding clauses about social media conduct. They are adding clauses that tie royalty bonuses to positive brand sentiment. They are calling it the Wilson rule behind closed doors. They never want to be in a position again where they have invested millions in an athlete who goes on Instagram Live at midnight and torpedoes the product launch because of personal jealousy. Think about that. Aja Wilson is so talented that she will make the Hall of Fame, but her legacy in the business world might be a contract clause designed to stop other athletes from acting like her. That is a heavy burden to carry. That is a stain that doesn't wash out with a championship champagne shower. And look at the locker rooms now. The dynamic has shifted. The WNBA veterans who were liking Wilson's tweets, they are quiet now. They see the writing on the wall. They see that hitching your wagon to the bitter train doesn't get you paid, it gets you left behind. We are seeing a new crop of players coming in who are modeling themselves after Clark. Business savvy, media trained, product focused. The shoe wars are over. One side had a nuclear weapon, the other side had a slingshot and a bad attitude. The CC1 isn't just a shoe anymore, it's a symbol. When you see a kid wearing them, it says something about what they value. It values the work. It values the craft. It values the shut up and shoot mentality. So I ask you, sitting there right now, which box are you picking? Are you picking the gold box that represents the future, the grind, and the unbothered excellence? Or are you picking the dusty box that represents entitlement, grievance, and the past? The market has made its choice. The NBA players have made their choice. The swoosh has made its choice. And I think deep down, even Aja Wilson knows she made the wrong choice. But that's the thing about the internet, and that's the thing about business. Sometimes, by the time you realize you've set the bridge on fire, you're already standing in the middle of it, watching the flames rise. Don't feel sorry for the outcome. Respect the game. The game always rewards the truth. And the truth is, Caitlin Clark didn't just outsell Aja Wilson. She outclassed her, she outworked her, and she outmaneuvered her without saying a single negative word. If that isn't a lesson for your life, I don't know what is. Build your thing, perfect your craft. Let the haters scream into their phones while you are cashing the checks and changing the world. That's the breakdown. That's the reality. That's the story Nike tried to bury, but the receipts are forever. Now, I want to hear from you in the comments. I know this is going to ruffle some feathers. I know the Aja stands are going to come for me. Bring it on. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that 42 NBA players were hallucinating. Tell me that the StockX numbers are fake. Or admit that we are watching a paradigm shift in real time. Drop a fire emoji if you are Team Clark. Drop a weeping face if you are Team Wilson. Let's see where the people stand. And if you want to know about the secret clause, the actual legal language Nike is putting in the new contracts to prevent another meltdown like this, make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you hit that bell, because in the next video, I am going to leak the contract details that agents are trying to keep off the internet. You think this was deep? We are just scratching the surface. Stay focused, stay hungry, and for the love of the game, stay off IG Live when you're angry. Peace.